Let me introduce the moderator. Lars Boering is the director of the European Journalists Center, an independent European non-for-profit organization which supports, strengthen and develop journalism and media. In previous roles, he has been actively involved with journalism, photography and art. He was the director of the WordPress Photo Foundation for many years, and he made it becoming a global platform connecting professionals and audience through trustworthy visual journalism and storytelling. And now we are asking him to continue this connection by connecting the legal professionals to discuss this topic.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here. And when we got in touch and we talked about how this connection to media, journalism came about, and then I said I'd like to be present, and I also like to participate. When I'm there, I can also moderate. And it's good to be leading the last session where we talk about common interest, because we talked about the image of justice in media, and we talked about responsible press reporting, but I think now it's also time to indeed talk about what's the common interest and how important it is. It was good to see that it was defined as pillars. We have on the stage, and I will do a short introduction when I give you the floor. Kees Sterk, Dorota Zabłudowska. There you go, almost good. Patrick Gielen and Andrada Persu. Thank you for all being here. We prepared this talk, and then we already had a very lively talk. Before we have a conversation and interaction, I just would like to give the floor. We had some topics that we prepared. Kees, we will start with you. Common interest of journalists and legal professionals. If you think about the rule of law backsliding, and in particular attacks against freedom of the press and independence of the judiciary, and how do you define the common interest? Do you think they are both very much interlinked?
Well, it was already mentioned in earlier speeches, contributions, that the media and the independence of the judiciary are two pillars under democracy. So that is one. If you look at, that is from the constructive point of view. If you look at the populist point of view, it's the media and the independent judiciary who always first to be attacked. So there is, yes, there is a very common interest there.
What comes first? First the press, or first? We've had examples. What's your assessment? There was talk about press gets first attacked, or law gets first attacked. Do you see a certain trend, or is it? You are in the law side, of course, but yeah, what do you think?
What I see is that usually first the press is under attack, because if you don't have any transparency anymore, you can have every story told about these terrible judges who are lazy, communists, fraudulous, well, whatever you want them to be, you know, and there is no public discussion anymore whether this is truthful or not.
Yeah. How do you have an experience in your life where you felt that you could join in, let's say, together with? I mean, media is a big container. We talk about media, journalism. There's lots of details there which we need another full day for. But do you have an example where you felt that you would see in let's say in the landscape of Europe things move along collectively, so where judging, law and journalism move forward together? Is there an example in your past years?
Well, what I, from my own experience, I am still a judge, 30 years now this month, and I started as a civil judge and trained in the old-fashioned way. You don't talk to journalists, you do your work, and that's it. And then I became a member of the council in the Netherlands, and the task of the council is to be the bridge between the judiciary and the politics. And one of my tasks was criminal law. And as one, I don't know who it was, mentioned, politicians usually are only interested in criminal law. So I was very much in the Dutch parliament there. And then, of course, I became involved in the EYBA. And then the attacks in Poland started. They already had started in Hungary. And we felt we had to do something, of course. And so we started working together as European judges, try to think how could we defend, what could we do. And one of the things was, of course, journalists. So the first thing, not only but I was, I think, one of the first, start actively approaching journalists and trying to get the facts across. As someone also said this morning, you know, at least we must try to get the facts across. And so that is one thing. And I still have built a little network of journalists who I now, well, I would say trust that they do not misuse what you're saying. They do not always publish what you want them to publish, because they have their own independence, more or less, but they are always willing to listen. And quite a lot of things, sometimes I phone them very actively. That is also very new for me, and actively approaching them, saying, this is important, you should write an article about it. And I will explain what it is about. And of course, it's your decision, or your editors or whatever, because sometimes journalists say, I want to, but it's my boss who doesn't want to. And so this this changed quite a lot from, I would say, from being the classic judge, just doing his job, to far more activism. And this change was, of course, caused by the fact that the context of society changed. And I was in a position, because of my membership of the Dutch Council and my presidency of the EYBA, to establish a network, not only among the judges, but also among politicians in the Dutch Parliament, in the European Parliament. And we were able to get our story across.
Yeah. There was a lot of talk today about social media, and social media has become media and not so social anymore. At the same time, yeah, at the same time, you talk about it's for you the let's say the classic media, which is formerly known as newspapers, but also is very much online media. Are those the main sources, or let's say the main channels where you would approach, because that is where you know the journalist, and that's, you know, what the kind of work they do and how they ethically work? Or do you feel that social media, whether it's X or Facebook, also should play a part? Are you active on it in that same way as you approach journalists yourself?
Yes, I'm active on Twitter, and I use Twitter primarily to bring across judgment from Luxembourg and Strasbourg. That is challenging to write in a few words what the essence of rule of law judgment from Luxembourg, and because I don't know whether you have ever read or seen one, they usually very lengthy. So that is one, and and sometimes I give some comments there. So I say why it is important, or whatever. And I have now some, I think, 1,500 followers, and I think 250 journalists among them. So I use it to feed journalists, to make them curious, and some of them they phone me and say, well, can you explain a little bit more? And that's what I do then. So I use the social media to give correct facts about what's happening in the courts in Luxembourg and in Strasbourg, or what's happening in Hungary or in Poland or in other parts of Europe. I always check the facts, so not just saying something, and I use it for journalists to become curious and then start writing about them online or in the newspapers or on television or on radio.
The response of journalists are there, but I'm just curious as well. Is Twitter then always for you still a happy place, or do you get also this strange criticism?
Yes.
From anybody, somebody,
yes.
Who knows best and says that this, yeah.
Yes, I had some friends friends between brackets from Poland, and I reacted to or twice. And after that, it was just calling bad names and said, I say goodbye to you, thank you very much. Yeah. And this happened with some populists from the Netherlands as well. What I usually do is I react one time, and I try to prevent them from trying to take over my message.
Yeah.
So I react one time, and then if they become again abusive or whatever, I just block them.
Yeah. Let's go to some real friends from Poland. Dorota. Dorota's. Yeah, if you can hand the microphone. You're a judge in the district court, and you've been in laws, in judicial service since 2002.
Yes. Tomorrow it will be 21 years.
21 years, yeah. There you go. We have one big, 30 years, 21 years, we have one big celebration now. Yeah. You have, of course, your own experience with Polish judges also opening up to society, but I think the question will be there is that do you also do that through journalism, or how do you reach out to society? What is the Polish way of trying to build that relationship?
In Poland, we have a specific situation because the administration of the courts has been taken over by the ruling party. So basically, it's the Judicial Association, Justitia, which I'm a member of the board, that took over the communications with society and with the journalists. And basically, and we were talking with Kees this morning that from nothing we developed a media team that actually provides information on a daily basis. We have people who have their own not watches, but they have a week when they publish, and then there's another person and so on. So this conference will be on our social media in some time probably. And that was a matter of necessity because before the rule of law crisis, there was just one person running our Facebook. And after that, we had to develop a strategic communication process. So it was Facebook, it was Twitter, because I don't like the X name. Nobody does, I think. And it was Instagram, and and we also had some consulting from public relations companies, because people who saw what was going on when they saw it, they pro bono consulted us on our information strategy. So basically now we are quoted as a source.
Yeah. But this came out of a necessity.
Yes.
Then you have an urgency, and then you have a necessity. But do you think it would have? Did you think it would have gone as fast as you just did it now without political developments or society
Maybe
changes?
not.
No.
We've had a lot of developments, both in the communication with the media and in the rule of law, and with the judicial input in the court's decisions, the European courts, because of what was happening in Poland. So I think it's kind of evolution. It would happen probably, but not so fast, and not so many people will get involved because we all got united, because it was like that. First, you ask Kees who's under attack first. So in Poland, it was the public media that were taken over by the ruling party, and they started spreading propaganda. Then there was a smear campaign against the judges. There were billboards in the cities, which sounds kind of impossible, but that's what it was. Like, a judge stole a sausage in a store. They wanted to stay as it was, and it was preparation for the revolution in the courts. So that was the second stage, and then of course there were the legal actions.
Yeah.
So.
And with media being also being pressured, there was no media coverage of that these billboards were ridiculous, or
there was, yes.
There was.
The independent media, yeah, they reported that, and they knew that it was in their own interest, because after the courts, it was the only safeguard that would be left.
Yeah, yeah. So there you felt a clear, I would say, alliance. You needed each other. These two pillars needed to come together.
Yes, in responsible protection of the rights of the citizens.
Right. Right. And now is it now the new normal?
Oh, not yet.
Not yet.
No.
No.
No, because we don't even have a new government.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to this public TV channel to be returned to the truth.
Right. Because that's the other side. We also call media the media that was in the hands of the ruling party. So media is helping you, but sometimes, that part of media is working against you. How do you balance that off? I mean,
it's very difficult. It's almost impossible, I would say.
Yeah.
Because the public television, as Victor could confirm, happened in Hungary. They cover the most of the state, and if they repeat lie after lie and hate speech after hate speech for months and for years, people actually soak up with it, and you can't blame them for not thinking clearly, because it's like poison. That's the other side of the story.
I grew up with admiration and trust in school. My father was a school teacher, so as a young kid, teachers and doctors and journalists and law and judges. So to get closer to the society, closer to the other, is that for? Maybe you cannot speak only for yourself, but do you see that some judges might have struggled with that, or that this distance between the society and them became smaller?
We were educated the same way as Kees was saying. You state your verdicts, you don't speak out, and you don't communicate. And then it turned out that the judiciary actually has to have a voice. And if you can't do it in the official way, because the court's presidents were appointed by the Ministry of Justice, we had to do it on our own. And we started talking to the society through the social media, through press conferences, but also during demonstrations in the streets if necessary. And it turned out that we got very good feedback, and that the people were listening. Nobody would try to punish us for speaking out. And that is important for the judges, to drop the self-restrictions. I mean, you have to talk in a responsible way. You cannot offend anyone. You cannot take sides with political parties. It's obvious. But you can, and you have to speak about breach of citizens' rights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's... and I would like to comment on the non-official media that Andrea was talking about. During this all rule of law crisis in Poland, the citizens' media actually played a great role, including reporting from courtrooms. They would go to disciplinary trials of judges, and they would broadcast the trials and make them known to the public. So I would say that that's a very important and valuable job they are doing, because I think it is a job, even though they don't get paid, which is even more, noble of them to sacrifice their free time to report on what's they think it's important. So I would not underestimate the citizens' media at all.
Yeah. Citizen journalism that comes together. Yeah, because that was one of the things that stuck with me today. We talked about media, but we also, for me, I represent. I'm not a journalist myself, but I represent, of course, journalism and media. For me, journalism is a very specific activity, just as judges and lawyers, fact finding and focusing on getting as close to the truth as possible. And your example here actually underlines that this is a role. I wouldn't. Do you think, guys, in the Netherlands that we also have citizen journalism that follow law? Yeah. Yeah. Do you have I'm going to hold the microphone. Yeah.
Yes, I think so. We have that. We have people attending court sessions, usually retired people, and then they blog about it, and it's. But it's usually very informative and sometimes a little bit critical, but I think it's very helpful for us.
Good.
And I think that the traditional journalism also changed, because, for example, as a presiding judge, when I ask a journalist from a TV station, even the public one, to show the journalist's ID, they don't have anything of a kind, because they are working on a very poor contract. So they are not actually even employed by the public TV and so on. So it's also tricky.
Yeah. Do you personally what did you find the most difficult in this new approach? If you have been trained to be like, I do my job, or did you actually? Is it enjoyable?
Once you break your self-reservations, it's very enjoyable. But the hardest part was in July 2017, when I was to speak out to the public on the stairs of the court in Gdańsk for the first time, because we as judges, we are used to public speaking, and it's obvious. But it's very different to speaking to the public,
right?
Outside of the courtroom.
Not reading your papers, but just talking.
Yes, and the eye
example
contact
that we heard.
somebody mentioned. Yes.
Yeah. Not reading a verdict from paper, but just looking them in the eye, looking from left to right.
But it also developed. I think that this situation also developed our work as judges, because we started to communicate with the parties of the cases more.
Yeah.
We started to
Interact.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you to give the microphone to Patrick. Patrick Gielen, you're from Belgium, a master's degree in law from the University of Liège, a judicial officer in the Brussels Judicial District since 2013. Do you have something to celebrate? Some 13, yes.
I have to celebrate my 25 years.
25 years. Here we go.
I'm coming in the
It's the celebration bingo today, which is good at the end. Yeah, we're going to have a winner at the end of the day. You have done a lot of international advisorship, but now you are the chairman of the French-speaking nomination committee for the bailiff since 2018, and a member of the editorial board of the magazine L'Huissier de Justice. We asked you, when we talked about preparing for this panel, there were two things: court officers and bailiffs, and maybe it's good to explain for the non-legal people here, like me, what is the court officers and bailiffs? What do they do?
Bailiffs, we are doing the enforcement, so we are the end of the chain of the justice.
Right, it's the least popular part of the chain, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. But somebody has to do it.
Yes.
And it's an important part. But I ask it because that will pose some specific challenges, I guess, with dealing with an audience or being, let's say, you probably will never be popular, or is that, do I see that in the wrong way?
When people don't know us, we are not popular. But when I go to the people, I can be, because a lot of people thanks me when we are handling or find a solution, because our purpose is to find a solution between a creditor and a debtor.
Right.
But when people don't know us, and media sometimes don't know us, I have one example from a newspaper from end of October. You know that end of October is the time of Halloween. There was in one newsletter, I will read it. Even today, the profession of judicial officer still has an image that scares people. They know that they will never be considered as a good guy. If you are short of inspiration for your Halloween outfit, go for the full judicial officer kit. Long grey coat, long grey raincoat, hat, a Derrick glasses, and a black attaché case. I think I have nothing but of it. Dressed like this, you are sure to strike fear into the hearts of your neighbors. Having a judicial officer outside your door is one of the 6 most horrifying fears in the world. But the idea of a judicial officer coming to take possession of property horrifies to no end. Yeah. This was last month.
This
Without,
was
and we did nothing wrong. It's only a paper that came out in the media. So we have to try to face, we are really an unknown profession, and even we try to explain who we are, it's difficult to understand. Yeah. We are the only guy from the judiciary who is going to the place of the citizen. We are going inside. We are talking with him. We are trying to find solution. But no one thinks that we are trying to do mediation. Yeah. But judicial mediation, even we have a judgment, we have to find a solution. So mediation, it has no sense to sell the goods, because it's an end. It's really a fail of the case if you have to go to sell the goods. And yes, on a year basis, I think we have not more than 5 to 10 cases where we sell the goods.
One of these, I mean, this is an example that really doesn't help you. It's one example that people look at and they say, "Oh yeah, now what do you, as a group, as a profession?" This is about storytelling, right? So you would prefer the story what you just told sounds much more reasonable. And what do you do? Just as cases, for example, do you also have a group of journalists around you, or media, or how do you reach out to make sure that a different story comes across?
Yes, I will take the example of my chamber here in Belgium. Before 2014, we had nothing, but really nothing. Since 2014, we built really our SAMTES, it's really our lobbying and our communication center. We have now 3 people who are working full-time, who are really by taking care of the communication. We have also media training. Some of my colleagues, I was spoke by person a few years ago, and so now we are going to the media. You can, I think this morning we thought we cannot react on everything. Because if you act on everything, sometimes it can be very bad for your professionals. But sometimes you have to react, and this we are trying to do. I can give an example from the rule of law by crisis in the COVID time. In the COVID time, I think we were one of the only countries where we had really a legal suspension of enforcement. So I can, by law, not go to enforcement. And if the media is saying, judicial officer will not come to your place, what people will do? They will not pay, because I'm not here. But we are still serving documents. We are still serving convocation to the courts. We are still going to the people. So we make contact with the media, and media came with me, follow me on the road, and we go to people. During the COVID, we are not going inside, so I asked to the people to come outside, and we discuss outside. And also what we remarked that the people are paying, because in the COVID time you cannot go on holiday, you cannot go to bars, you cannot go to restaurants, so people have money, and people were really happy on the phone to pay, because if they pay, the debt is done and they can live. Yes, this was really what we saw, but we had to explain to the media that the work is still going, because if the debtor is not paying, the creditor receives nothing, and it's not the purpose that the creditor becomes a debtor. So we have really to find the middle line between the two, creditor and debtor.
Is in the this is about the image of your profession, right? And is it now, let's say, in your system, but even maybe in, we talked a lot about education, but also to become a professional or to be able to do the profession you do, is it also in the education now of bailiffs that communicating with society or with journalism is necessary, or is that one step too early?
Not everyone, but we have to choose the right people on the right place. But I think the most important is this: we have a very sensible profession. We have to do it on the right way. So our education, our training, our continuous training is really, really important. We have to be really make our work so good as possible to get so less possible criticism.
Yeah. Do you ever do you have the same experience with social media or, as you explained, civil journalism, or does that also apply to you, or
yes,
is that? Yeah.
We have an Instagram page, we have a LinkedIn page. LinkedIn a little bit more for high level post, and Instagram a little bit also shows that we are human. We are not machines. We are not doing enforcement to sell the goods, and we are happy to sell the goods with my raincoat, bald hair. So we are really trying to find solutions. So we need to communicate. I can give another example. Before Facebook and so on, I found on the internet a blog against the bailiffs, really against. I say, I will connect. And I say, I'm just an officer, and I'm here if I have some questions. And now I'm still in contact with a guy, with a guy who started this, I think it was 10, 15 years ago, and we are friends. And every time there was a problem, I was there. I explained the law, this you have to do, really normally. There was a lot of criticism from a lot of people, but I say only, I never give any answer on the criticism, because people also, it's emotional. I go to people, I go in the house with the locksmith, with the police, so it's not a nice thing. But I explain what they can do. In our chamber, we also made some pop-up cafes. So we just officer goes in a cafe, the data comes in, and we explain freely, on a free basis. Every month we go in different places to go to the citizens, explain what we are doing, because the image we receive on the media is not always a good image.
Why do you think that is? I represent journalism media, but we should also be self-critical. What is the main challenge there? What is the problem there? Why do you feel that media portrays your profession sometimes in a way that you don't even recognize yourself?
It's easy.
It's easy.
It's really easy to be. It's also people don't know us. So I think the most what I say to everyone who wants to know what we are doing: follow us.
Yeah.
Follow us. Come one day with me. Also to a journalist, come with me and see what we are doing every day. See what we are seeing. There are people who cannot pay, okay, but there are people also who can pay and don't want to pay. So then we have to go do enforcement.
Dorota talked about being in front of a crowd. I don't think you will be very often in front of a crowd, but has social media made you more visible? It might be that you get photographed, or that somebody's making a little film of you while you're doing your work. Did you experience anything of that? Have you become more a public figure?
What happens sometimes when we go on seizures is that people who are putting their phone and are filming me. So then also we have to know how we react, how I react. I said to him, you cannot do it, you cannot use it. I cannot forbid him, but I stopped talking. Because everything can return if he gets something. So I said, but what we have to do in our profession is to go outside. I think 10, 15 years ago, we were a little bit in a ivory tower, and no one knows us. But we have also to do something, not only the media, but we have also to go outside and to show what we are doing, how we are working. It's on the both sides. I think if from the both sides there's a little bit a step to the other, I think we can do very good things to the citizens and to show what we are really doing.
Can I ask you to hand over the microphone to your right? Andrada Persu, you're currently Secretary of the European Young Bar Association as part of the Executive Committee. That was all I had to say about you. The rest you can read in the bio. You have similar experience as Dorota, but then with private lawyers instead of judges, right? Where is that example coming from, and can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yes, first of all, hello everyone. Thank you for sticking up until now. Yes, I am a member of the European Bar Association. I think it's the most relevant information here. I represent the voices of young lawyers in Europe. And I've had a similar situation, and I'm talking now as a lawyer in general. We talked today a lot about protecting the independence of judges and protecting them from the media, from outside pressure. But I think it's very important to do the same with lawyers. It's not as popular to think about an independent lawyer, but you want a lawyer who's not afraid of retribution from authorities. You want a lawyer who's not afraid from retribution from the media, for example. You want him to do his job. And as Nicola mentioned, sometimes we're not as popular. People don't like what we do, but we are an essential part of the judicial system. We had a very serious case in Romania, and it was debated internationally about one of the most prestigious lawyers in criminal law in Romania. He is a partner of one of the top law firms in Romania. He was incarcerated for 11 months, basically for giving legal advice to his clients. It was concluded by the judges in Romania that his clients obtained illegally a piece of real estate in Bucharest, and that the clients could not have done so without his legal opinion. It was one of the few moments where lawyers were united in protesting this decision, and it was the first instance decision, the appeal court decision, and only in the third jurisdiction level did he get acquitted. So it was quite a serious case. This is why he spent 11 months in prison. And I think the protest of the lawyers and the presence of the media surrounding this case really helped with the decision. Even waiting for the decision has been a couple of months, I think. Every week, when everybody was expecting the solution, the Court of Appeal in Bucharest was full of journalists. I sometimes had cases there, and you could see them filling up the courtroom. It was one of the most popular cases, judicial cases for the public interest. And I think it's really important to stand up and to let our opinions be heard by the public, because if not, I am very sure that nobody would have been interested that a lawyer has been incarcerated. But this is very important for the citizen. The citizen needs to know that their lawyer would not be afraid to defend them. And I think if the media would have not presented these cases actively as it did, then probably other lawyers would have been afraid to stand up. And I know for a fact that there are other lawyers that are put in this situation, and the media did not cover them because they aren't partners in major law firms in Romania. They don't have influential friends as this lawyer had, but still the attack on their independence is just as severe for the rule of law.
In the Netherlands, you have lawyers that are sometimes you feel too much on television, less than judges. I was actually thinking, and do you see that the same as well in Romania? That now lawyers also actively seek, let's say, attention or talk to journalists or are in television programs to talk about their work or their case?
Yes, of course, because we want to be superstars. We want to be in the public eye. It helps with our reputation, with our clients, but we need to be very responsible in doing so. Even from my law firm, we were sometimes asked by journalists to intervene, to have a short presentation about a certain case that we were not dealing with. But for example, if you have a case coming out today and you need to broadcast in 2 hours, then maybe you will not reach the lawyer in charge, or maybe he doesn't want to appear because of client confidentiality. And sometimes we just provide translations. But there are situations when you want to come out with your own cases and you want to let the public know if you had a great success, and especially to position yourself in a certain area of the law. Because if I will conclude a big real estate transaction, then the public will know me as that, and they won't come to me for criminal defense. So this is very important for our image to be clearly defined for the clients.
That's a good example of lawyers. Some want to be superstars. It's less for judges. You spoke about that judges were much more reluctant to do the same. Is that still the case? Are they still reluctant and not so much in the public sphere?
Well, I liked Andrea's argument that if the system goes well, then the citizens don't need to know the judges. But at the same time, on a more personal level, I think it's important for judges not to be afraid to interact, not to be afraid to act as normal citizens, meaning to be able to expose some opinions, to be able to have an online presence if they wish to do so, to be able to rejoice in personal events and celebrations. And I feel that there's a big reluctancy on their part to do so at this moment. They don't want to be known for their personal or professional activity. And I think this is bad in a way for the judicial system. Of course, I don't want a judge to be too adamant in their opinions. I want them to have an open mind, but at the same time, I want them to interact with the world around them. I don't want them to stay in an ivory tower or in a bubble. I want them to be part of the real world, to understand the cases they are judging. And I think if we scare them in the way that we are always criticizing them, us as lawyers or citizens or journalists, then of course they would stay there in their bubble, because we need to be open-minded with them as well.
Yeah. You talk about television and I call it traditional media. Is social media playing a big role in Romania, in this on this situation, or is that maybe even the biggest role?
Yes, in Romania we have one of the fastest internet connections in the world. Fun fact. And I think this helped a lot with the usage of social media. It is very popular. I think for lawyers it's essential. I think for journalists it's essential. And I think it should become essential for courts as well. So I've already mentioned that judges have a reluctance in using private social media accounts, and I think this is totally up to them. And they should be allowed to have one if they choose to do so or not. But when it comes to official communication, I think social media would improve the way citizens understand the judicial system and the way lawyers and judges interact, the way judges and other legal professions interact as well. With the pandemic starting, it was more difficult because we didn't physically go to court to understand maybe what's going on, if a certain hearing would be held or not. You have situation where a judge can become sick and not come the next day, and you have traveled for 500 kilometers for the case court. So it's important to have some flexibility and visibility, and I think social media would give them this. But at the moment, courts they have started to communicate, but I checked some Facebook pages in preparation for this meeting, and they post maybe one every 3 months. I think this is not enough. I think they should be more open, but they should do it in a trained manner, in a professional manner. I don't want to see like personalities coming out of an official post. I want it to be very straight to the point, very informative, and not opinion-like. So Maria mentioned that maybe it would be good to maybe shut down comments because they're not useful in some situations. It's just purely informative. We're not debating with the judges or with the administrative body of a court in certain situations. They just need to put out a statement, and that's it.
Okay. I'm looking to you, Victor. Do we have online? Not yet. Okay. So
We can talk for a long time. So
we
no
talk
problem.
for a long time, and yeah. But then maybe we can open up for the audience here is still in the room.
I wouldn't say we took over. I would say we supplemented the media, those that were independent, and I would like to emphasize that there were actually three communication channels, which would be the independent media, the judicial media, so to speak, and the citizens' media, because the citizens were also very active in reporting the irregularities. There were actually some internet services that arise from this necessity to report on the rule of law in Poland, and they are very much active right now too. So it's kind of interesting, and it's again what Lars said, that it was the necessity that brought the solutions, because they have regular journalists, paid jobs, and so on, and they just write on the rule of law.
The situation in Poland might change. Yeah, let's be optimistic. Yeah, it will change. Let's be optimistic. It will change.
Kees and I will see to that.
There you go. We keep fighting for it, because we talk about also in framing this panel the rule of law crisis, and I think you've been in Poland definitely through this crisis. If you oversee, let's say, neighboring countries or Europe, are you seeing this crisis become bigger, or do you feel that the way you took it on in Poland can also be as a good example to places where this crisis might pop up now?
I think that anything can happen, as we saw in the Dutch elections lately, and nothing is for certain, and neither our freedom or our principles were given for certain, and we have to take care of our home. So yes, I think that as autocrats, as Victor said today, they learn from the same textbook. We should have a textbook on how to preserve and to protect the rule of law in all individual countries, including specific examples of what can be done when something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And also improving the legislation beforehand, as they did in Sweden, because in Sweden, having in view what happened in Poland, they actually, all the political forces came together, no matter which side of the political scene, and they introduced legislation to make the judicial independence stronger.
Yeah.
And that's a very good example of what could be done.
Yeah. Kees, are you optimistic about the situation? Is that one crisis might be over, and somebody? How do you see it?
Well, first on Poland, I'm hopeful, and I think with Dorota that it will change, but it needs a fight. It's not like there's a new government. There will be new government in a few days, I think, but they will face enormous opposition, because the current government has still quite a lot of power in the veto power of the president and the political packing of the constitutional court. So it will not be easy to get the rule of law restored in Poland, but I don't use the word optimistic, I use the word hopeful. And so that's one. And what was the other?
No, that was the
Okay.
crisis. So if you're hopeful, then hope. Sometimes they say hope is not a strategy, but hope is instigating, of course, the push to keep fighting for it.
Exactly. Hope is not a strategy. Hope is what makes you fight.
Yeah, good. Anybody in the audience? More questions? Yes, there's one here. Do we still have the there we go. The microphone is on your way. My center is involved in what we call solutions journalism, which is rigorous reporting about a solution to a problem that already exists. Can also fail, but at least there's agency in the people who. And it feels like that is also something that you could need here. The problem is, of course, that media, social media, everything is put on one big pile. While it's true, yeah, the clicks and negative news sells, right? We are much more wired for that kind of news than good news. Yeah, it would be really important to have a strategy for that. And before you enter into the realm of public relations, it feels almost that you would have to have a little bit of a PR, let's say, offensive. Talk about your profession, what it also is. And yeah, would you think that that is something that you're looking at if you look at an association or the group that you represent?
Yes, we have to fight as the communication goes on a good way. I will take one other example what I had. I had a very important case for the custody of Banksy artwork. We had to take it to close a exhibition. I was with my colleague, and it took hours and hours, all the night. And then on one moment, the media was there. I really kicked the media out because they have nothing to do inside. Then we saw, and we were inside, taking by all the artworks, and we saw, I think, 10, 15 articles coming out. It was 10 p.m., 11 p.m. But I was really happy because no one knows who was the judicial officer who was doing this. Yeah. No one knew what we are really doing. So nothing was true in the media. So I was happy. Why? Because when I was talking to the media, then you have all the papers who were talking, yes, this guy is doing this. Yeah. And making some, I preferred that nothing was true because no one knows what's happening, because we were really working hard on this case, then to talk to the media and to make publicity for my office and so on. Yes, it's work. We have to know. We have secrecy, and the media has nothing to do when we are working. Yeah. It's afterwards they can make an appointment with our chamber. We can explain the case, but afterwards, not while we are working.
I begin to wonder, are you allowed to report on the case you're doing if the media come, or is it secret?
No, we cannot talk to the media without the authorization from our chamber. So we have and so I said in the beginning, we have to be very careful when we're making our profession. Yeah. We have our secrecy, and we have to make our profession. And afterwards, we can go to the media. We can talk. We can explain, because we cannot explain when you're full in a mission and you are working. We are working. We are and also when a judge is in his court and the media comes in, he will not stop. Yeah. He has to end his work. So we have everyone of our profession. We have to be really, really perfect when we are doing our job. Yeah.
Andrada,
on the field.
Do you have the same? Do you have Kees has a whole list of people he can reach out to? Are you also building this list of preferred journalists?
I am not, but I still believe that we need to be proactive. And I'm using the new media more than the traditional media involving journalists. And I think it's our duty first as professionals to inform the public. For me, I think it's the easiest to let people know about what lawyer does, why we are important, why we need to safeguard our independence from authority, from scrutiny. It's all in the benefit of the client. But of course, we need to protect client confidentiality and not to affect their economical interest. So I believe in being proactive. You cannot wait for journalists to do their homework and to present you in a perfect light, to get all the details right, to come and ask you what's your job, the fact that you're doing your job right. Of course, the journalist will come, most of all, when you are doing a bad job. For example, there was a very famous case in Romania where the lawyer of the president, in a private matter, didn't fill in a claim in time, and the case got dismissed solely on the fact that it filed the document 1 hour or 1 day late, something like that. So of course the media was all over him because he did a bad job. nobody was going to do a report. The fact that if he had filled the document in time, I think it's the way society works in general. Nobody gives you a pat on the back because you did your job well. It's expected to do that. So it's our job to be proactive in representing our difficulties and how we overcome them and why our clients need us. And I think in a way judges should do the same, more reserved of course, not as lawyers because they're not advertising themselves as we do, and maybe bailiffs as well, because during the case it's very difficult to take time off to talk to journalists, to make a Facebook post or a LinkedIn post about the case. But then I think there's a tendency after it's over just to pass on to the new case. And if we do this every time, then the public will never know what we are actually facing. So we need to take that time from our actual jobs to become PR specialists and to inform the people about what we are doing. And if we don't do that, we cannot expect the journalist to get it right, to be our best friends and to write about us.
Yeah. The question here was asked that, or was made the remark that social media is because of the tendency to go for juicy things and clickbait. You actually turn that around. Say social media is also for me a great way to get my message across.
And it should be informative a lot of the times. It's a good way. Sometimes you need to get an information across that it's not an article theme. I'm not going to spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks writing a proper article to appear in a legal magazine that no citizen will write. But I can write a Facebook post on my way to work, and it can be something that really helps the citizen and makes them understand how me as a lawyer can help them on a certain issue. And I think we should be proactive in this way.
Yeah, thank you. I saw some hands going up front here. Yes.
In the Netherlands, we have quite a lot of judges who are, like me, part-time professors. So one of the tasks is, if there is someone trying to write something about the judiciary, for instance, they come to me or to other judges who are also law professors for a kind of peer review. So that means that at least the facts are correct, and of course they are. If they want to be critical, by all means. But so in the Netherlands we don't have that kind of thing because of this combination of functions and how we use it. Yes, there are always very critical law professors, but they do not have a lot of influence, I think. So they are, I wouldn't say neglected, but they have no influence. So that is that I'm just talking for the Netherlands. But yes, we get students or PhD students, and what we usually do with that is that we invite them to come for, say, 2 weeks to the court. They are have to take the oath, and then they just can follow a judge. I have once or twice a year of such, and we use them as a kind of ambassadors in the student population, so they can say, no, that is not correct, that's not what a judge does. Usually they come in very critical. I will see how this, and then they leave after 2 weeks being very enthusiastic about what's going on. And so these are more or less the things we do to get across what we are actually doing. And but you know, it's I'm a law professor myself. Fortunately, I'm only part-time. If you're full-time in the universities, at least in the Netherlands, you have to write certain amount of articles. You have to be in the cited lists, that kind of thing, and that usually, well, not usually, that's the wrong word, but not always that gets the best quality of criticism on the judiciary. Let me put it that way.
Actually, in the rule of law crisis, the academic world, which I forgot to mention, played quite a huge role because we've had a lot of bad law produced. And by the fact that these people were reading the statutes, which is not obvious that somebody would read, they would produce comments on Facebook, and that drew the public attention to the bad law. So I understand your reservations, but then after they publish, there is a debate, as usual with comments and so on, and most of them are quite down to earth and connected with the subject and not to the author. Of course, they have to. I don't like the drastic language that some of them use, like, for example, for the judges who are not properly nominated. I think that there has to be balance in the message and the language and the dignity of the profession maintained in the message. But still, I think that it does more good than bad. And I wanted to give you one example, which is quite interesting because it concerns the teens. There is one guy in Poland who has a YouTube channel. It's called Martin's Law. And basically, the guy comments on the regulations on schools. There was some para-documentary series called The School, and he was commenting on the cases from this. And what is interesting is that actually the guy is a PhD in law, which we didn't know, and the student primary school students or high school students, they might not know what the Constitution is, but they all know Martin's Law. So it's an unconventional channel that really plays a huge educational role.
Questions from the audience still? From online? Anybody still online? Yeah? No? The one person online. Does he have a question? 170, there you go. There you go. Well, if they have a question, then let themselves speak out. When we prepared, Andrada told me, don't forget to ask about the example of the Brazilian Instagram. Do you remember when we? Yeah, can you give that anecdote to lighten up as well? This is where
it's Colombian actually.
Oh, Colombian. There you go. We have to be factual, right? Yeah, yeah.
There is a Colombian judge. I don't remember the name. Maybe it's fortunate for her, but if you put in the Google Colombian judge and Instagram, it should send you to the right person. There is a Colombian judge who was very active on Instagram, and she has a lot of tattoos. And she was posting on Instagram the half-nude pictures. So she had she had many followers, of course, but she also had some disciplinary problems because of her Instagram account, because it's not usual, and they were not only half-nude, but they were also provocative. And then finally, she was on trial, and she was not dressed, and she was smoking a cigarette, and she had her camera on. And that's what actually gave her the real trouble. Yeah. So I would not recommend to follow this example, but it's actually an interesting question between your freedom as a citizen and your freedom of expression and showing off your body. But I do think that the judicial job has its limitations. It has its profits, but it has its limitations, and you cannot show up nude at trial at no time.
I don't think so. I don't think any judge would appreciate that in a real court as well, or lawyer. Yeah, there you go. We have judges and lawyers agree today.
Well, I have another anecdote concerning maybe not the media, but the way the people dress, because we had I was sitting in my room in the court the other day, and one of the secretaries came, and she said, "Well, I saw this prosecutor, and it was in the middle of the summer, and he looked like a druid because he had his robe on, but he had no trousers and he had his sandals. So maybe it's important to watch out on how we look outside the courtroom as well.
Yeah, this visibility is becoming part of the practice. I see you not for sure. Yeah, that comes with consequences. I mean, do you ever get from colleagues any feedback saying, yeah, but you promote this and you say that we should do this and you're on social, but we should not do this? Are there people that are much more conservative and refuse to be doing that PR or this appearance on social? And if they so, how do you?
Well, I actually remember today about an incident. I completely took it out of my mind. It was in 2018 when the law firm I was working at that point received a notice from the Bar Association that our internet page is considered illegal because it had reference to our Facebook page, and our Facebook page was not authorized. And as you can imagine, we don't have a special procedure to authorize a Facebook page. So it was something that just came out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting this, and said, okay, it's fine, you can have a internet page, but you cannot have a Facebook page. And this was 2018. Everybody was on Facebook. And I prepared an answer then to the notice showing that there are lawyers in the Bar Association committee who sent us the notice that have Facebook pages, that all law firms in Europe and especially in Bucharest, international law firms use Facebook to promote their cases and to disseminate informative posts. So we considered an abuse their request, and at the end of the day, they didn't give us any sanctions, but they didn't give us a reply. So only a couple of years ago, this was the normal situation, not to have a Facebook page, like judges maybe to stay in our ivory tower, not to speak to anyone. I know it's a common principle in Europe, in contrast with the United States, not to be too aggressive in advertising your activity as a lawyer. We don't have billboards showing call us or with funny catchphrases, but we need to be able to be visible. And I think as long as I mentioned before, you respect your client's confidentiality and you present yourself in a professional manner, like Dorota said, from the way you dress, from the way you write, I think there should be no other limits imposed on our freedom of speech and representing ourselves. And again, it's the easiest way to do it on social media, because on traditional media, we would only be present either if it's a very high profile case or if we did something very bad.
Yeah. Okay. There was some, no, nothing online. Somebody spoke up, but there you go.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say that you are scheduled for 5 o'clock remarks, but we might pull it a little bit earlier. Let's go, and if there's no questions from the audience anymore, is it? No. This is about the common interest of journalists and legal professionals. So if there would be one wish for you, for journalists, to do something or to be much more helpful, would you? I'm going to ask you all of this as a final round. What would that wish be?
For me, as a lawyer, it's very important to promote legal education, especially in schools, but to the general population. And I would love to see journalists approaching legislative news information that affects their right directly without advertising or attacking somebody, just to be more active in educating the population.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Patrick.
Yes, very short, trying to understand us, and maybe it will change a little bit the way they are speaking about us.
There you go.
Taking into account the latest development in Poland the last couple of years, I would say I always ask journalists, the professional, the citizens, watch out and guard us. I mean, watch the watchers, even us, because we are all human, and your role is to control if everything is done according to the law.
Yeah. Kees.
Yes, I would say a lot of journalists, they have interest there, and they are very, very much not focused on certain issues, but it is, well, they get commissioned to do this or that or that or that. So I would wish that there would at least be, say, 5 to 10 journalists in a country which follow things about the rule of law in depth, and then they maybe, if they are critical, it's not a problem. But what my experience is, when the journalist phones me, I usually have to start to explain the most basic things about law or about the judiciary and etc. And I'm doing that. Just, I'm not complaining, but it is a sign, you know, if it's this basic knowledge is not there, so it remains, the articles remain superficial, and I would wish it to be more in depth. And again, if they are critical, that's not the problem, but that's what I would wish: more quality journalism on the rule of law.
Noted. Thank you. Thank you, Kees, Dorota, Patrick, Andrada. And I give the floor back to, thank you so much.